72 hours after losing one of our best defensive players to a season-ending injury, Ryan Poles faced the kind of decision that defines general managers: chase the big name that sends social media into a frenzy, or make the smart move that actually serves this team's championship timeline. The answer he gave us reveals everything about where this franchise is headed and whether we're building something sustainable or just chasing headlines. Welcome to Bears News Fan Report, your premier source for breaking updates, insider analysis, and honest perspectives on every decision shaping the Chicago Bears' future. This is where you receive daily information on roster moves, trade deadline activity, coaching strategies, and the developments that separate playoff contenders from pretenders. Today I'm breaking down a situation that had Bears fans dreaming of an elite pass rusher joining our defense, a scenario that seemed perfect on paper but crashed into reality in ways that actually tell us more about this organization's intelligence than any blockbuster move ever could. The Chicago Bears are sitting at 5 wins and 3 losses through 8 games, a record that has this fan base believing in legitimate playoff possibilities for the first time in years. That winning record isn't accidental. It's not some fluke built on lucky breaks and opponent mistakes. This is a team with a franchise quarterback developing beautifully under Ben Johnson's offensive system, with young playmakers like Colston Loveland and Kyle Monangai making game-changing contributions, and with a defense that's been exceeding expectations despite not having elite talent at every position. We're winning games we should win. We're staying competitive in tough matchups. And most importantly, we're playing with the confidence and execution that suggests this isn't a one-year aberration. But Sunday's game against the Cincinnati Bengals, a contest where our rookies showed out and gave us reasons to be excited about the future, also delivered devastating news that threatened to derail our defensive momentum. Dayo Odeyingbo, one of our most productive edge rushers and a player who had been generating consistent pressure on opposing quarterbacks all season, went down with an Achilles injury that immediately looked serious. The medical staff's evaluation confirmed our worst fears: season-ending injury, no chance of return this year, and suddenly we're looking at a massive hole in our pass rush rotation with 9 games remaining, plus potential playoff football. Odeyingbo's loss cannot be understated when you examine what he brought to Matt Eberflus's defensive scheme. He wasn't just a rotational player getting occasional snaps in obvious passing situations. He was a foundational piece who could set the edge against the run while also providing legitimate pass rush production that forced opposing offenses to account for him on every down. Losing that kind of versatility mid-season creates cascading problems throughout the defensive line rotation, forcing other players into expanded roles they might not be ready for and reducing the overall effectiveness of our pressure packages. For a team with playoff aspirations, this type of injury at this point in the season could be catastrophic if not addressed immediately. The trade deadline was approaching rapidly, giving Ryan Poles a small window to address this sudden need before the November 4th cutoff at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Poles has built a reputation as an aggressive general manager who's willing to make bold moves when opportunities present themselves, someone who doesn't sit passively hoping problems resolve themselves. His track record shows a willingness to trade draft capital for proven players when the timing makes sense, to be creative in finding solutions, and to operate with the urgency that championship-focused organizations require. So when Odeyingbo went down, Bears fans immediately started speculating about which edge rushers might become available and what Poles might do to replace that production. One name started circulating almost immediately in media reports and fan discussions, a player who would represent the kind of splash acquisition that changes a defense overnight. Trey Hendrickson of the Cincinnati Bengals, a former All-Pro edge rusher who led the entire league with 17.5 sacks and 65 pressures last season, had been mentioned in trade speculation for weeks. Multiple reports indicated that Cincinnati, sitting at 3 wins and 4 losses, and facing their own difficult decisions about competing versus rebuilding, might be willing to move their best defensive player if the compensation was right. For the Bears, adding someone of Hendrickson's caliber would immediately transform our pass rush from adequate to elite. The statistical case for pursuing Hendrickson was overwhelming when you examined his production over recent seasons. He's a relentless defender off the edge with a deep toolbox of counter moves and an incredible knack for making plays late in the down when quarterbacks think they're safe. His 4 sacks through 7 games this season don't fully capture his impact because he's also generating consistent pressure that forces quick throws and disrupts offensive timing. Hendrickson has the kind of technical skill and motor that every defensive coordinator dreams about, a player who never takes a snap off and who makes everyone around him better by demanding constant attention from opposing offensive lines. On November 2nd, ESPN's Dan Graziano explicitly connected the Bears to Hendrickson in his trade deadline coverage, writing that if Hendrickson became available, Chicago should at least inquire about the price. That connection made perfect sense from multiple angles. We had the immediate need due to injury. We had a winning record suggesting we should compete now rather than punt on the season. And we had a general manager with the aggressiveness to make a big move. The fit seemed almost too perfect, a rare situation where need and availability aligned at exactly the right moment. Bears Twitter exploded with excitement. Mock trades flooded social media. And suddenly everyone was convinced we were about to land an elite pass rusher. But there were significant complications that made this dream scenario far more difficult than it appeared on the surface. Cincinnati's asking price for Hendrickson was reportedly a first-round draft pick, an enormous cost for any player, but especially for someone who's over 30 years old and playing on an expiring contract. Hendrickson's market value projects around $133 million, meaning acquiring him for this season wouldn't guarantee anything beyond 2 months of production unless we were willing to commit massive long-term money to re-sign him. For a Bears team that's still building its core and has Caleb Williams on a rookie contract that provides salary cap flexibility we need to maximize, trading a first-round pick for a rental player represented a philosophical question about our championship timeline. The reality of our organizational situation added another layer of complexity to evaluating whether pursuing Hendrickson made sense. Yes, we're 5-3 right now, playing good football and very much in the playoff hunt. But Ben Johnson is in his first year as head coach, Caleb Williams is a rookie quarterback still learning the NFL game, and our roster has young talent that's developing rather than established stars in their prime. We might have the feel of a rebuilding team long-term, even while competing in the present, creating tension between maximizing this specific season and protecting our future flexibility. Trading a first-round pick for 2 months of Hendrickson could mortgage assets we need to continue building around Williams for years to come. Ryan Poles had to weigh all these factors while operating under intense time pressure as the deadline approached. The fan in me wanted him to go get Hendrickson regardless of cost, to make the aggressive move that shows we're serious about winning now. But the pragmatic side understood that general managers must think multiple steps ahead, not just addressing immediate needs, but also positioning the franchise for sustained success. On Tuesday, Jay Glazer of Fox Sports provided clarity that deflated those Hendrickson dreams when he responded to a fan question about whether Chicago would be active at the deadline. Glazer confirmed the Bears would be active, but specifically said he didn't see anything splashy happening, explaining that elite players simply weren't being shopped unless teams received huge compensation, and that expiring contracts complicated matters further. That statement from Glazer essentially confirmed what many of us suspected. Cincinnati's asking price was too high, Poles wasn't willing to mortgage the future for a rental, and we needed to find a different solution to address the Odiengbo injury. Later that same Tuesday, we got our answer about what direction Poles chose. Adam Schefter reported that the Bears had acquired defensive end Joe Tryon-Shoyinka from the Cleveland Browns along with a 7th-round pick in exchange for a 6th-round pick. This was decidedly not the splash move that would dominate headlines and send the fan base into ecstasy, but it represented smart, calculated roster management that addressed our immediate need without compromising our long-term flexibility. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka brings an interesting profile that makes this trade more intriguing than it might initially appear. The Browns originally selected him in the first round of the 2021 draft out of Washington, recognizing the athletic traits and pass rush potential that made him an elite college prospect. His time with Tampa Bay didn't work out as hoped, producing just 15 sacks across multiple seasons before he signed a 1-year, $4.75 million deal with Cleveland this past offseason. At 26 years old, Tryon-Shoyinka still has plenty of career ahead of him and represents the kind of reclamation project that good coaching staffs can sometimes unlock. The fact that he's played only 31 defensive snaps across 8 games in Cleveland suggests he's fresh and ready to contribute immediately in expanded opportunities with the Bears. The compensation structure of this trade reveals exactly why Poles made this move instead of chasing Hendrickson. We essentially swapped late-round draft picks, giving up a 6th to receive a 7th, along with the player, meaning this cost us almost nothing in terms of future assets. Tryon-Shoyinka's contract is expiring after this season, giving us the flexibility to evaluate him over these final 9 games and decide whether to re-sign him or let him walk without any long-term commitment. And most importantly, we address the immediate depth concern at edge rusher without compromising our ability to continue building through the draft around Caleb Williams. This is smart team building, even if it's not sexy or headline-grabbing. My honest evaluation of how Poles handled this situation is that he made exactly the right decision, even though it's not the one that generates excitement on social media. Trading a first-round pick for Hendrickson would have been all sizzle and no substance, a move that makes fans feel good temporarily, but doesn't serve our actual championship timeline. We're not one player away from winning the Super Bowl this year. We're a young team with a rookie quarterback that's ahead of schedule, but still building toward sustained contention. Tryon-Shoyinka gives us depth at edge rusher, allows Eberflus to maintain rotation flexibility, and costs virtually nothing in terms of assets that matter for our future. That's intelligent general management, even when it's not glamorous. The broader context of our season makes this approach even more sensible. At 5-3 with 9 games remaining, we control our playoff destiny and have legitimate reasons to believe we can make the postseason. Drop your detailed thoughts in the comments below, because this conversation matters for how we evaluate our championship trajectory. If this analysis gave you real insight into the Bears' trade deadline decisions and what they mean for our playoff push, make sure you're subscribed to Bears News Fan Report and hit that notification bell. I bring you daily breakdowns of every roster move, every strategic decision, and every development that impacts our path to contention. This is where you get honest, informed perspectives rather than hot takes designed for clicks. Smash that like button, share with every Bears fan you know, and let's keep this crucial conversation going as we head into the second half of our season. Bear down.